theyeshiva.net.
So we're on page 195, the second column. The line starts Torah. It's like 15, 20 lines from the bottom. The line starts Torah. Ube'emes nemar yahalalucha sela beli kates. You see, vezel l'tfunase ein misper. Line starts Torah. So the nekuda, the point that we discussed in the previous shiur, in this maimer, Chayav Einish l'besumah b'poria, the pasuk says by Shloima HaMelech, Vayedaber shloishes alafim mashal. It doesn't mean that he had a repertoire of 3,000 stories, 3,000 mishalim, 3,000 parables. But rather, every inyan in Torah, on every inyan in Torah, he had 3,000 mishalim. Every theme, any shiur had 3,000 mishalim, by definition. Why? Because the chachma, the wisdom of Shlomo was so deep that he understood something and he could trace it then back 3,000 levels, which is an incredible, incredible idea. The originality of it. In other words, any theme had 3,000 mashalim by definition, because he understood it so profoundly that he understood how it can be articulated on 3,000 different levels. A person, you understand the svara, this one understands it better, this one understands it less. What he saw, the reality, he could now trace it back, divest it from this levush, and express it in yet a deeper way. And then do that 3,000 times. And each time is a mashal legabe the one above it. So even though you're explaining something, it's an idea, when you reach number 2, the higher level, the first one was a mashal. It was a stepping stone, but it was like a parable, it was like a metaphor. And then number 2 is the nimshal. But yet, he can now go up to number 3 in climbing this ladder, and suddenly 2 is a mashal. The nimshal of yesterday became the mashal of today because the nimshal is so much higher. And the nimshal of today, tomorrow, becomes a mashal because the nimshal is so much higher. And this is 3,000 times. And each one becomes a mashal. Even though yesterday it was a nimshal, or a few moments earlier it was a nimshal. And I can give an example. There's the Torah you have in Olam Hazeh, you have the Torah in Gan Eden Atachten, you have Torah in Gan Eden Elyon. It's the same Torah. But one is a mashal legabe a nimshal. Or to put it in different words, as he expresses it in another maimer, the same teichen. That the chachma was so deep of Shlomo that he needed 3,000 mishalim in order to convey it. The same concept. He needed 3,000 mishalim because he saw it the way it is in its core. But nobody would understand it. So he needed a mashal to dress it up, which is what a mashal does. Packages it, dresses it up. But that mashal was number 3,000 and number 2,999. Nobody's getting it. So the mashal needed a mashal. But that mashal that was given for the mashal also needed a mashal. Because it was still a nimshal. It would still suit too deep. So he dressed it up mashal after mashal, and he can bring it down 3,000 madregas until finally people, the simple folk, can understand mashal number 1, which allowed them to understand mashal 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not going to go through 3,000 numbers now, but you get the point until they can understand mashal 2,999 and finally mashal 3,000. Ad kedei kach. How far does this go? So he says, Ube'emes nemar yahalalucha sela. Bli kates. If you want to know the truth, 3,000 is not really the number. It's a nice number, but it's not really the number. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kadoshim b'chol yom. Yahalalucha sela. The Gemara says in Eruvin, like we learned, Kol makom shenemar netzach sela va'ed. Wherever it says netzach sela va'ed, ein lei hafsik olamas. There's no hafsik. U'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalalucha sela. Sela means forever. The praise is forever. What does it mean? Because every level is ultimately a mashal for a higher level. And it's infinite. It's endless. Because it comes from it's Ein Sof. It comes from the Ein Sof. So there's never, this is it. This is it relative to yesterday. This is it. Relative to tomorrow, this is just a stepping stone. It's a mush. In halacha, we mention Yetzias Mitzrayim every day. So the pshat is, the Balatanya says, it's not pshat, we mention it every day. No, it's an experience every day. Meaning, yesterday's redemption is today's Mitzrayim. What do you mean? Yesterday I broke out of the barriers. I have this awareness, this epiphany, this clarity. I'm out of Mitzrayim. Emes. Celebrate. But tomorrow, tomorrow you got to go out from Mitzrayim again. It's not a discouraging idea. Some people say, okay, I'm always in Mitzrayim. No, it's a very encouraging idea because the heartbeat of life never stops. For today, it's a redemption, but for tomorrow, it's a galus. Yeah, because today's geula becomes tomorrow's trap. That's how it is. Today's geula, today's redemption becomes tomorrow's galus. So tomorrow I need a new Mitzrayim. If I want to rely on yesterday's Mitzrayim, on yesterday's geula, it's not good because for today where life grows and I grow and consciousness expands and there's more awareness, God is inviting me to a deeper Yetzias Mitzrayim. And if I want to hold on to the old Yetzias Mitzrayim, I'm holding on to an old relic, a fossil that has been mummified. Pun intended, talking about Egypt. Okay, it's too early in the morning for that. It's just mummified is. So the same is true in Torah. The hallelujah, what's hallelujah? Hallelujah literally means praise, but it's appreciation. Hallelujah, we always translate as they'll praise you forever. In other words, the appreciation will never stop. They always say that in a relationship, what's the sign that it's a good relationship? Talk about Mishalom. What's the sign? Yeah? You never think you have your spouse figured out. Can anybody say that about themselves? The moment you're married 40 years, what do you mean you don't have it figured out? You had it figured out, your chavrusa you figured out in a week, and your wife you didn't figure out after 30 years. The moment you figured somebody out completely, yeah, it's already, that's downhill. No, I'm not saying that everything about your spouse is Ein Sof. I'm just giving a mashal. The mashal is, there's always inquisitiveness. If you could remain curious, is this true that Moshe Zev, you're a marriage therapist? That's true what I'm saying? Huh? To remain curious, right? And the reason it's not a fake game, remain curious even though you're not, it's about earnestness. To really know that there is that which is beyond me, even though we've been around for years and I know the habits and I know the idiosyncrasies. About the husband and the wife goes both ways. I know the Meshagastin and I know, what do you mean I don't know? I know everything. I know the food this person likes and if they want the window shades closed, they like the light open, they like the light, all the details that only couples know about each other, nobody else knows. Unless your sibling you also know usually. But the truth is that this is a very, very profound truth in life. It's the fact that you remain curious and inquisitive that keeps a relationship fresh, and it allows it to grow. You're still surprised. Can you still be surprised? Can you still be surprised or not? Huh? Huh? Rabbi Litzman says yes. Okay. 50 years. He says yes. 47, and he also says yes. What about the people who are married 1 year? They already know everything, no? The Malbim writes in Tehillim, Dor l'dor yeshabach ma'asecha. So literally it means from generation to generation they'll praise your deeds. But he says that's not really the translation. Yeshabach in halacha, you have it in Baba Kama and a lot of other places called shevach uman koine b'shevach keli. Or if it's meshabach. Meshabach means when something becomes better. Yeah, something becomes better. In halacha, shvach is the market goes up, the price increases, whatever the circumstances are. It says, Dar l'dar yeshabach ma'asecha, not that we praise your ma'aseh. Every generation, yeshabach ma'asecha, we get to appreciate much more the brilliance, the dazzling wisdom, the intricacies of ma'asecha. Till the 1950s, when they didn't know about DNA, they thought a cell was more or less simple. It's like a cholent. You throw in a couple of beans, a couple of potatoes, you have a cell. Today's already a derech, even by atheists. If you talk about a cell, how did it happen? It's already not so simple. They'll say we don't understand, but they had to say we don't understand. And literally every day, Yeshabach Masecha, there's a shvach, there's a whole different appreciation. It's like the price goes up. It's like, wow, Masecha. So Hallelujah Sela means every day there's an appreciation. Praise comes from an appreciation that I didn't have yesterday. And how far does it go? He says Sela. Sela means, again, from the Gemara in Erevin on Dalet, Ein Lo Hefsek. So 3,000 is a good beginning, but it's Ein Lo Hefsek. V'zeh, and this is Pshat, V'lisvunosei Ein Misper. This is, everybody knows the Pasuk in Tehillim, we say it every morning, in Psukei de Zimra from Tehillim Kuf Mem Zayin. V'lisvunosei Ein Misper, what does it mean? His tvuna, his wisdom, Ein Misper does not have a number. And the question, of course, is, like always, he Bavorins questions when he says it. He found a pasuk that there's a lot of psukim that speak about God's, we say it in Asher already before, V'ligdulasei ein cheke. Why does he bring Litzvonasei ein misper? If a person knows a few psukim, they bring up psukim. A person has the whole Tanakh in front of them. Mamish. You have to know why they bring a pasuk. He's bringing this pasuk because this pasuk brings out the point. What's the connection between wisdom and numbers? Lisvunasa, his wisdom ain't misper. You could say the depth of the wisdom is endless. Like Ligdulasa ain't cheker. Loi machshavaysa machshavaysa. He wants to bring out, no, Lisvunasa ain't misper. There's no number. Why would we think that his tefuna has numbers? This is the pshat. Ein misper is bringing out. Don't think, Shloima Melech, we said there was a number of 3,000 numbers, 3,000 levels in which to understand Torah. The truth is, ein mispar to the levels that there are in Hasagas HaTorah, in the comprehension of Torah. Why? Because it's ein soif, it's ein ketz.
So 3,000 is just derech wisdom, he just took that as an arbitrary number.
No, for Shloima it was taka 3,000. Yeah. This is not minimizing the 3,000. How many people can even do 2 levels? Right? Remember, 3,000, you're going, it's not just explaining it better. It's a different state of consciousness. To give an example for this, a mashal, but the mashal here is actually part of the nimshal. You'll see what I mean. I think I spoke about this a few times. I'm just going to give just an illustration to be able to be toifus at least one aspect of what the Balatanya is teaching us. In Shas, in Gemara, and Mishnah, you have thousands and thousands and thousands of machlokes. People are always debating. The Tanoim, the Amirayim. Whether it's Abaya and Rava, whether it's Rav and Shmuel, whether it's Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef, whether it's Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yossi. Man, those of you who grew up with Mishnah and Gemara, this is the meat and potato of Torah Shabbal Peh. Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Shammai and Hillel themselves argued 3 machlokes, and Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel more than 300 arguments in Shas about every conceivable topic. You're talking about the Tanoim, you're talking about the Amirayim for hundreds of years, and this continues throughout generations until today. The Goyim argued, and the Rishonim argued, and the Acharonim argued, but it's essential to Torah Shabbal Peh. Most people, when they look at the arguments, the Gemara will often discuss what was the logic of this, what was the logic of this one, and they'll say he had a pasuk, and the other one, he interprets the pasuk this way, and he has a different pasuk for that, and he interprets it this way. Okay, and he didn't know of the other person's father. He did. Ultimately, you'll get. So why are they arguing? They're arguing. There's 2 ways of looking at it. Sometimes it'll be from a pasuk. Sometimes it'll be 2 ideas, 2 svaras. Everybody knows. You have arguments with people. You look at it this way, I look at it this way. Avdil in a business, you can have two people in a company. Yeah, there's a problem. This one has this solution. This one has this solution. Why? They could listen to the other solution, but it has to do with my personality, my characteristics, my disposition, my traumas. If you go to your therapist, my issues, this is how I look at it. What do you want? Husbands and wives have arguments. Yeah. What are you doing for the Purim Suda? Anybody? Savikuach or nicht? Huh? That was the Shalom Bayis solution. Okay. What are you doing for Pesach? Well, people have arguments. Where are we sending our kids to school? What is that based on? What is it based on? A pasuk? You found the pasuk. She found the pasuk. It has to do with a lot of stuff. It has to do with your upbringing. It has to do with what type of school you went to. It has to do with what you see for your children. It has to do with so many different elements. So when we read a machlokes in Gemara, between B'Shamai and B'Sil, well, an example. This is at the end of the whole Shas. Some people made a Siyam HaShas not long ago, but this is in Mishnayos, Uktzah. B'Shamai and B'Sil are before the Gemara, so it's not... It's already quoted in Mishnayos. So machlokes at the end of Mishnayos, Uktzin, Dogim me'emasai mekablam tumah. From when are fish susceptible to tumah? Generally, the klal is that food is a substance that could become tameh. Yeah. If somebody touches a dead weasel, and then he touches a piece of food, a piece of challah, the food is tameh. If the challah is truma, if it was holy challah, the kohen is not allowed to eat it, he has to burn it. It's a serious thing. Until I go to the mikveh. If I touch the sheretz, I go to the mikveh. If I touch the challah, it's tameh. When animals are alive or fish are alive, there's no tumah. On a living animal, the only one who could be tummy when he's alive is a person. An animal can never be tummy when they're alive. Complementary of an animal. When he's alive, there's no tumah. When the animal dies, there could be tumah. So the question is, when do dogim mekabel tumah? Machlokes B'Shamai and B'Sil. B'Shamai says, Mishayitzoidu. The moment you get them into the net. The fisherman gets them into the net, they're mekabel tumah. If somebody's tummy touches them, they're tummy. The fish are tummy. Now you're going to put the fish, you're going to mix it with challah, which is truma, the kohen can't eat it. Whatever the ramifications are, but it's a serious ramification. Beis Hillel says, no, you have to wait till the fish die. It could take a few minutes or a few seconds. What's the argument? Yeah. They have another machlokes. I'm just giving an example. They have a machlokes. You ever went to a beehive? Anybody ever went into a beehive? You dressed up, huh? You ever see what bees do in a beehive? They create honeycombs. It's brilliant. They bring nectar from your garden. That's why they hang out in your garden in the spring. They bring nectar. They create honey. And they fill up the honey. They create combs. They do this all on their own. They create like combs, honeycombs, like vessels, yeah? And they fill it up with honey, and then they create a lid to cover it. It's fully packaged. They do everything, huh? They create, they prepare, they design, they package, ready for delivery. You come into the beehive, it's fascinating. It's called chalois dvash, honeycombs, literally like combs. Me'emasai mekablas tumah. When are they considered a liquid? Because for the bees, it's food. Me'emasai mekablas. When is it considered? Dvash, honey, is one of the 7 liquids. When is it considered something that goes to the balabas? It's his mashka, it's his liquid. So the answer is, Beis Shammai says, Mishayaharer, when he decides, I'm going into the beehive and I'm taking the honey. Another gears is Mishayacharcher, which means when he starts fighting with the bees, like Mecharcheriv. How do you fight the bees? You smoke the beehive. He brings in smoke and they fly away and he takes. And Beis Hillel Mishayirasek, when he actually crushes it, takes it away, that's when it becomes tameh as a mashk. Okay, a machlokes. Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel argue about Chanukah. The first night you light 8 candles. According to Beis Shammai, according to Beis Hillel, the first night you light 1 candle. Another argument from hundreds of arguments. In the first mission of the whole Shas, Rebbe Lezer, who was from Talmidei Beis Shammai, He says you can only read Krishma at Soif Hashmura Rishona. At night, you could read Krishma, you divide the night into three sections, and you can only read it till the first section. You can't even read it till midnight. Chachamim say you could read it till Chatzos, till midnight, which is the halacha. He says, no, much earlier. You divide the night into three sections, you have a little bit into the night, and then you can't read Krishma anymore. So if you didn't do Ma'ariv, if you didn't do Krishma, fallen. Chachamim say you could do till Chatzos, but the Yevid you could do Ad Sheyala Amud HaShachar, till dawn break. But Rebbe Lezer says outside for Shmur Rishona. So the Gemara says why? B'shachbecha. It says you have to read Krishna b'shachbecha. What's b'shachbecha? When you're laying, when you're sleeping. Yeah. So the Chachamim say it means as long as people sleep. It means a whole night till dawn you could read. The Chachamim didn't want you should read after midnight so people shouldn't delay it and then miss it. You go to sleep 10 o'clock at night. You're tired. You didn't do Krishna yet. You'll wake up 7 in the morning. You missed it. So they said till chatzos. But b'shach b'cha means as long as you're sleeping. Rebbe Lezer says no, b'shach b'cha means when you go to sleep. That doesn't mean when you sleep. When you go to sleep. You don't go to sleep a whole night. Okay, you didn't know about Monsey and Borough Park and this. Fine. They used to go to sleep at night. You woke up in the morning, you went to sleep at night. B'shach b'cha means when you go to sleep. You say, okay, fine. It's an argument. B'shach b'cha means when you sleep. No, it means when you go to sleep. There's hundreds of arguments like this. I just gave a few examples that people learn their whole life. Are they connected? They don't seem connected. But if you could go a step deeper, as Achronim do, then you could see all these machlokes are really a mashal. They're a mashal. There's a nimshal here. Meaning there's a theme that's being conveyed. There's a theme which Beis Shammai had in life. Yes, it's conveyed in fish and in Hanukkah candles and in Krishma and in beehives. And here is something else that's unique. The further you go away from the nimshal, the more fragmentation. The closer you go to the nimshal, all the fragmentation ceases and it becomes unified. Why? Because when you abstract it from its concrete incarnation and you get back to the nekuda, so suddenly you could see that things that seem so different, they seem different because of the way they're manifested. But in the nekuda, they become closer. And the same is true on every single level. A guy once came to a business coach and he said, I have a lot of problems. He says, what's the problem? He says, I can't pay tuition. I can't pay my mortgage. I can't pay for food for Shabbos. I can't fix the house. Okay. I can't take my kids away for the summer. I can't pay for Pesach. I can't marry off my daughter. I can't make a bris for my grandson. I can't afford the Shalom Zachar. Yeah. I can't pay back my credit cards, and I can't pay the loans that I took from 4 people 2 years ago. And I'm just fragmented. My whole head is in 1,000 different places, and I'm stressed. So the guy sits with him, and he goes through everything. So he says, what's advice? He says, let's put it this way. You basically are in debt $320,000. That's it. Now you owe me the money, whatever he paid him, $1,000. He says, where'd you help me? He says, you came in here, you had 100 problems. I gave you one problem, $320,000. It's one problem. You don't have any more 100 problems. Tuition, a mortgage, a teacher. $320,000 settles it. Yeah. From many problems, I made one problem. Consolidation. It's a bad mushal. But the deeper you go from the mushal to the nimshal, there's always more and more unity. What are Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel really arguing about? They have a shitta. Beis Shammai, in every situation in life, you always have to ask the question, does halacha recognize more koyach or poil? Potentiality or actualization? What do we focus on more? Potential or actualization? In every area in life. If you're opening a business or you're opening a yeshiva, say, do you see this person? The potential is amazing. Actualization needs help. Yeah. Or another person, you see what you get what you see. The poil is clear. The koyach, you don't know about the koyach. In a shidduch, what do you look at? Do you look at reality, the reality that you see, or do you look at potential? In any area in life. Beis Shammai had a shitta that potential is much more serious, much more reality in terms of halacha. Beis Hillel not. So the first night of Chanukah, the Gemara says, Beis Shammai says, Yamim hanichnasim. The first night has in potentiality 8 days. So you light 8 candles. The second night, you only have the potential for 7 days. So you light 7 candles. The last night, in Koyach, there's only 1. And it has to do also with the event, because when the oil increased, it only had enough amount, it was only enough oil to burn for 1 day. Its power increased 8-fold, so now it could burn for 8 days. So the first night of Chanukah, the oil had the potential to burn for 8 days. The second night, it only had potential to burn for 7 days. So Beis Hillel says, Beis Shammai says 7 candles. But what burnt? The first night, I only saw one set of menorah burning, 1 night, so it's 1. 2, the miracle was already 2 days. When I catch the fish in the net, it's going to die, but it didn't die yet. Beis Hillel says, I'm sorry, it's not dead. As the great Kabbalist said, it's not over till it's over. Beis Shammai says, no, you're getting nitty-gritty. The koyach is there. That's where it's destined. When a person goes to sleep, you know the feeling. You go to sleep, it's the sleep in potentiality. Yeah, you have to play it out. So for Beis Shammai, Rebbe Eliezer, his Talmud, B'shach b'cha means when you go to sleep. Beis Hillel says no. The Chachamim held back Beis Hillel. They argued with Rebbe Eliezer. It was a shit of Beis Hillel. They say, B'shach b'cha, you have to sleep. The Krishma is when you're sleeping, not when you go to sleep. But there's another machlokes between them. Masechta Chagiga. Beis Shammai says, Noyach loyla adam in Masechta Erev, Noyach loyla adam shaloi nivra yosem nivra. It would have been much better for people not to be created than to be created. Beis Hillel says it's much better to be created. What type of machlokes is this? And they argued for 2.5 years. They argued for 2.5 years if it's better to be created or not created. Real Jewish argument, huh? Huh? Better not to be created. You didn't know that? Usually halacha is like Beis Hillel, but here's like Noyach loy l'adam. And the Gemara says, "V'achshav shenivra." Once you were created, try to do something good with your life. Try to do something normal with your life. The Balatanya asks him, look at the Torah today, and it says, Hashem creates a world, and Beis Shammai says, by the way, God, we disagree. I was yesterday, after the Shir, I went for a convention for Russian Jews. They had a Shabbaton in Connecticut. So they had a question and answer session. So a woman got up and says, so there was a rabbi sitting near me, a big rabbi. So she says, what's the Jewish opinion on the coronavirus? So he says, we're against it. Okay, classic Jewish answer. We voted that we're not pro. We're not supporting the coronavirus. God says, I created a world 6 times. He saw everything is good. Beis Shammai says, I have a different opinion. Rebbeinu Shalom said, yeah, ich sag nicht. Ani yomer. I say no. I grew up in my neighborhood. There was an old shikr. His name was Alman the Shikr, a real shikr, but a smart Jew. So he once tells me, he says, my philosophy in life is the first Rashi in Chumash. What does Rashi say? Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, lo haya tzarech. Mistake, no need. Rashi has a continuous sentence. Lo haya tzarech lahaskal asatayim. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, lo haya tzarech. Sorry, this was really unnecessary. And a Jew who was a shikr for 50 years, he was typhus. It didn't come. It wasn't a vertel. It wasn't Psashalashuda's vertel. Yeah, it was from the Kishkis. This was really unnecessary. What? In Chagiga, Yud Beis, Beis Shammai says heaven preceded earth. Beis Hillel says earth precedes heaven. And they each have a braya. Beis Shammai, Bereishis bara Elokim, Hashemayim v'Saaretz. What are you arguing with a pasuk? And Beis Hillel says, look further. Eila told us Hashemayim v'Saaretz, b'yoyim asois Hashem Elokim, Eretz v'Shamayim. So they each found the pasuk. No, so now they have a whole debate. What's it mean? Heaven came before earth. What does it mean? He created heaven, and then a year later he created earth. What does it mean? Even mean time? Was this an issue in time? And they have to argue about everything. Is saying something very deep. Its saying is that the purpose of life is for a person to get to the place of loy nivra, much more than nivra. Neshama shenasata bi tahirihi ata varasa. Bria is already a stage of identity. Beis Shammai, who believes in the Bekayach, is always looking for the loy nivra much more than the nivra. He takes it back and back and back until the point of loy nivra, where you can go out even of the identity of Bria. Of course, heaven precedes earth. What does it mean heaven precedes earth? The ultimate of earth is, heaven is the ruchni of everything, and Eretz is the gashmi of everything. And one precedes the other in Maila, in Chshivas. The Koyach precedes the Poyal, and Beis Hillel says no. Eretz kadma l'shamayim. The Tachlis is the Poyal. The Tachlis is the Bria. There is the art of stripping everything from its levushim and to get back to its core of Bekoyach. And then there is taking a look at the world and saying a cigar is only a cigar. It's really recognizing actuality of the world. And which one is true? They're both very, very true. You know, in this class, the word therapy comes up a lot. For whatever reason, I'm not going to psychoanalyze now the Maggid Shir, why the word therapy comes up a lot. But it does, right? Everybody knows that. However you define therapy, but one thing is sure, it's about awareness. It's about trying to figure out what is happening inside of you. Yeah. But as a famous marshal, credit to the doctor who sent it to me, from a professor in Columbia University, if you want to go to the doctor because you have a problem, and they take an x-ray, everybody knows that the x-ray is going to reveal a much deeper authentic side of what is happening inside than your physical body, which doesn't display what is going on inside. So the x-ray is the pnimius, the body is the chitzonius. And yet, I still never found anybody. You walk into their house, and in the living room or the dining room, there's pictures of all the x-rays of the kids. Right? You have 6 kids, 10 kids, and an x-ray, and your mother, an x-ray of your mother, and your father, and your baba, and your elder baba, from when they started x-rays. 1904, I don't know when. Why not? Put an x-ray. It's the real thing. What, the nose is real. This face is real. They're smiling. Yay, goodness. An x-ray. Better an MRI. Let's see what's happening. Put the dentist. What do you have people smiling? Take your dentist records, yeah? Dental records. Put it on. You see the real insides, yeah? The real teeth in this. That's what you see a kid. That's what you should have. I still never saw a house do it. Why not? Why not? It's true that the x-ray is much more real. But the x-ray is not the person. In order to be able to heal the person, I need an x-ray, MS. But the x-ray is not a person. Therapy is not a person. Therapists who try to keep patients there for 25 years are doing an injustice to humanity. It's like the doctor who says, let's just do x-rays. Every morning you wake up, x-ray. You don't live in... Yeah, x-rays are true, more true than anything else, but the point of the x-ray is to heal you. The point of therapy is not to sit in therapy a whole day and talk about how miserable your life is. That's not where life happens. Beis Hillel says life happens in Poyel. Do you need to go to the Pneumius? Of course you have to. That's the last pasuk in Kehelis. Soiv davar hakol nishmas alakim yirav es mitzvahs of shmar kizeh kol adam. In actuality, that's where life happens. You put a picture on the wall, yes, it's the real picture. What's the point here? The point here is, when you take the machlokes and the Beishamai Basila on the surface, it's one argument. When you look at the nakuda of koyach and poyel, what does Torah recognize more potentiality or actualization? Suddenly, there are dozens, maybe much more than dozens of arguments that all converge into one. Why? Because I went from the concrete to the abstract. But koyach and poyel, you can go back, all the way to the point of loy nivra and nivra. If the tachlis of life is to come to a place of loy nivra, in other words, I look deeper into potential, and that's Beis Shammai. And the Arizal says, la'asid lo ve'halach is like Beis Shammai. Because when Mashiach comes, you could live by your x-rays. Meaning, the poyel could become a manifestation of the koyach. Today, it'll drive a person crazy. You have to be able to step away and say the main thing is the world of poyel. To expect that your whole potential should be a clear, clean x-ray, and that's what you judge a person, that's not the halacha. You understand? Are you following me, or this is a little You have to live in the world of loy nivra. You have to align the world with the place of loy nivra, which the place that's pre-bria. I remember once I was a bacher, and there was a fabrengen, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe was giving a sikh on a Rambam. It was a Rambam in Hilchas Niskei Mammon, but Bekama. And it's a case over there of a sher tam and a sher hamuad. A bull gores 3 times, you pay chatzi nazik. After 3 times, it's a sher hamuad. It's prone to destruction. And if you didn't guard it, you're guilty, you have to pay nazik shalom. It kills another bull, it's full price. There's no such a thing. It happened, it was a mistake. My puppy is cute, and suddenly it attacked. Your puppy is not cute. He's a German shepherd. And you didn't lock him up, you didn't tie him up, you have to pay all the damages. You remember in Connecticut, the chimpanzee a few years ago that went crazy? Yeah. Machlokes. So the Gemara asked him about the Mishnah, how can a sher amud ever go back to being a sher tam? Do you regain your innocence? So he says, yeah, if you train it and you see 3 days in a row in different, he discusses the situations. In the old circumstances, the sher is domesticated and calm. Obviously, he went back, he was angry, he was aggressive, and the Ritalin helped. But then Chazal say, and the Rambam quotes it, there's one more derech. If I sell the animal, or I give it as a gift, I sell it to you. Nothing. It was a muad. It was prone to. I sell it to you. I give it to you as a gift. Rishus meshana, changing the domain of the animal, changes it. It's a short time. Now, if it damages tomorrow under your watch, chatzi nezik. You have 3 times. Mefarshim struggle with this. I don't understand. You have a wild dog. I give it to you as a gift. I understand if I train it, animals can be trained, and it changes its nature. So the Mefarshim struggle with it. Mefarshim struggle. So the Rebbe said the pshat is animals are very sensitive. When they right away know there's a new owner. If they feel there's a new owner, they know there's a new sheriff on the block. You remember the first day in yeshiva with a new teacher? You remember that feeling? Even if you were a troublemaker last year, you gave him a few hours to test him, right? Then you realized you could hust him in what's the lashon? The hust him in badaich. But you gave him a few hours to see. He says the animal has a hergish. He knows there's a new sheriff on the block. A haltzachain. And therefore you could start everything over. Okay, it was very geschmack. But then, almost without skipping a heartbeat, he said, and of course, This halach is really a reflection of how to deal with your nefesh habahamis. Because there's two types of animal souls. There's a sher tam and a sher muad. There's an animal soul that's a sher tam, meaning it makes mistakes. Once in a while it goes crazy. Starts breaking windows. People lose it. Sher hamuad, this is already something else. It's what we call addiction. This is what you do. You come in at night and you break windows. You are a Goring ox. It's not just that people lose it. Everyone loses it. Not everyone, but a lot of people lose it. You had a bad day, you have a headache, you have a virus, yeah? Your boss fired you, and they towed your car, right? And the coffee spilled out on your new pants, all in one morning. Ever happens? And you get into an argument here in the parking lot. You lose it. Huh? Well, Sher HaMuad is a different thing. Sher HaMuad means you're prone to destruction. You didn't lose it. This is when you're in a good place, you lost it. This is your Tetzaveh. How do you deal with it? So you said in halacha there's two ways. One way is you retrain yourself. But you have to push it, work on yourself, retrain your thoughts and your characteristics and your disposition. Yeah. And then he said, but here the Rambam is teaching us is another way. Rishus Mashana. Rishus Mashana. What's part of Rishus Mashana? Rishus Mashana is you give away the behemoth to God. You surrender it to God and you tell God, and the behemoth knows. You give over the balabatashkeit of the behemoth. You surrender your balabatashkeit and you give it over. Even though you didn't work it through, halacha, it's a different behemoth already. Different behemoth. He said, and you can explain to him that God recreates the world every moment. Hashem recreates the world every moment. Because he recreates the world every moment, so therefore, what says you are Sher HaMuad? Sher HaMuad is an old story. There's a new story now.
Sher HaMuad continues.
No, now, in psychology, it's two different patterns. Today we know it's two different patterns in psychology. And each is valid, and there's a mile in each. There's a mile, of course, in the first one. But you can't always wait for the first one. Everybody knows in addiction, the most important thing is surrender. And it has to be a real thing. It has to be a real thing. I don't have to work everything through. No, what is this? Is this like a funny pshat in the Rambam? No. That's what he's saying. There's another 3,000 levels. The way Torah is given is every level is a mashal for a nimshal. When there's a halacha about a behemoth, it doesn't start with a behemoth. It starts with the nefesh habahamis. That's where it starts. Then it evolves into a physical reality of a dog, or a chimpanzee, or an ox, or another animal that you have. I'm giving a mashal for this concept that every inyan in Torah could be understood on a mashal level, on a concrete, which is true, and that's where it's halacha. But you could trace it back, right, and see the same thing is really halacha about your own. You're reading Masechta Baba Kama, yeah. You're reading about an animal. You're reading about your own issues, your own animal. If imagine the whole Shas would be taught this way. Right? Baba Metzia, Baba Basra, Sanhedrin, Zvachim, Menachos, Brachos, Erev, and Shabbos. Now you're like, where, what, when? I'm saying it already, I'll tell you something. There's once Erev Yom Kippur. So the Rebbe was discussing a Rambam and Hilchis Kalim. It's one of these halachas, people shut down. Klei cheres, you know what klei cheres are? Earthenware vessels. They're made of mud and straw and water. Mud and straw, and you bake it in an oven. You ever saw them make earthenware potter? Clay. It's not mekabel tumah on the outside. Only me'avira, only the cavity. So if it's flat, can't be mekabel tumah like a counter. It has to have a toich, a cavity, like a bowl, a goblet, a cup. And the tumah has to go inside. Tumah, let's say a sheretz, right? Or a mace, or anybody. Me'avira, it's matam me'avira. There's a reason for that, but it's not for now. We once discussed in Reb Chanina the reason for it. It's a fascinating halacha. It's only mitame. Even if you don't touch it, but it goes into the ear space, it becomes tameh. If you touch the exterior, it's not tameh. If I touch the sheretz and I touch this, nothing happens. If the sheretz is suspended inside, even if it doesn't touch the walls, the klei cheres is tameh. And by the way, there's no tahara. It has to be broken, because it's porous, it goes in so much, you have to dissolve it and then bring it back together. And because it's earth, it's very cheap. What's the Havana in this? The Havana in this is, every keli has value on its own. Silver, gold, copper, metal. Cheres is so cheap, it's mud. So it doesn't have value on its own, it's worthless. What's its value? That it holds on to something. Where is that value? In the airspace. So that, and tumah is always commensurate with, is always proportionate with value. So the Rambam has a halach, it's a Mishnah in Kalim. What happens if a klei cheres has a klei kibble? It has a cavity, but einoi osoy lekabbalah. It wasn't made to absorb. The Kabbalah is just a channel to transmit. For example, a pipe. You have a pipe, a funnel, a pipe, and the pipe is made of earthenware. It's clay. And the pipe's function is to transfer water from one end to the other end. No, and somebody comes who's tameh, and he touches the pipe. It should become tameh. I said, no. Why? It's mekabel, it has a cavity. It's not made to be mekabel. It's made to transfer, to give, not to take. A cup is made to take. A bowl is made to absorb. It's mekabel. Okay, so it's a halacha. That what Chazal understood, not just it has a cavity. The cavity has to be one that it's made to have a cavity, meaning it's made because it wants to absorb. It was Erev Yom Kippur. And the Rebbe says this halacha, and he starts crying. I never heard anybody say a halacha about klei cheres and starts crying. It's a very not emotional halacha. And he was quoting the Rambam, and he says, that it's not mekabel tumah, and he's crying, mamash like sobbing. I couldn't understand. I know he was one with Torah, but such a halacha, man. Where's the emotion there? The Dena Schusterman, explain to me, what's the emotional about a klei cheres? Chal tumah and tara, most people shut down. Even if you have a havana in tumah and tara, okay, it's not mekabel tumah. It's actually a good halacha. It's not mekabel tumah. But then when he finished with halacha, he started to explain the halacha, and then I understood. He said that the Torah describes a person as a klei cheres. Vayitzer Hashem Elokim es ha'adam afar min ha'adama. A person is made of afar. A person is a klei cheres. You would think that if it's a klei cheres that doesn't have a room to absorb anything for itself, it's not mekabel tumah. Because there's no selfishness there. What we call bittul. But if a klei cheres has a big keli for Kabbalah, it's synonymous with tumah. Comes the halacha and says, no. Even if it's mekabel everything, but it wasn't made l'Kabbalah. The purpose of its creation was not to be mekabel, but to be a conduit. There's no tumah. And he says, and there's a psak in Torah and Kiddushin, ani nivresi l'shamresh eskaini. What was a person made for? To be a pipe. You're a pipe. You're a channel. You're a seamless conduit. So he says, so a Jew, a person, can absorb everything. But because he's not osui l'Kabbalah, it was made to be a conduit, an embodiment of the divine energy to flow through him. So psak din in Torah is he's not shayach to be mekabel tumah. Not min ha-Torah and not even min ha-Rabbanan. The concept of tumah is not shaykh by such a person. And it was Erev Yom Kippur, it was right before Yom Kippur. So I understood why he was so emotional, because it was right before Yom Kippur. He said, a Yid is not shaykh to mekabel sein tumah. And then I'm like, wow, so you're looking at Halacha and Rambam about pipes, right? Which generally when I hear the word pipe, I already shut down, unlike some of you. And a pipe from Klei Cheres, and a din in tumah. But it was really a whole different story. And not different, same story. Just the question which level you're talking. Then I said, when he was saying the halach, he was already crying. Why? It's a very emotional idea. Think of yourself. When was the last time you thought of yourself as a pipe? Huh? As a channel. The pipe has everything, should have everything. But it doesn't get stuck. The difference between health and not health is not what you have inside, if it gets stuck. If there's a crevice and it gets stuck. It doesn't get stuck. In other words, who am I? And it's not even who am I, it's what the pipe was made for. So you always have to go according to the one who created it. He said, who created it? He created it, should be made l'kabbalah, so it's not makabel tumah.
Before people are makabel tumah and animals are not.
Animals are not makabel tumah when they're alive. No, we're not talking about an animal now. We're talking about a klei cheres. An earthenware vessel is makabel tumah from the cavity. The tumah went into the cavity, but it wasn't made to be makabel. It's not makabel tumah. How is this halacha learned in Olam HaYetzirah, in Olam HaBriya, in Olam HaAtzilus? You have to know what's a keli there, what's cheres, what's tumah, what's tara. But it's the same halacha. Shlomo HaMelech could take every halacha and explain it on 3,000 different states of consciousness. And each one is a mashal l'gabe the nimshal. 3,000 states of consciousness, he can explain it. Every halacha, every machloikus, every inyan. What's tumah? Tumah is disalignment. Tumah is dissonance. That's what tumah is. Impurity, disalignment. Usually, when I have to absorb, there's disalignment. That's where trauma happens. If there's no cavity, so then there's no self before Eitzadas. When there's a self, it gets complicated. Who am I? Ayeka. That's only if the self was made just to be a self that's detached. But since Einoi Asur LeKabbalah, the guf and the soul of a person wasn't made just to absorb and remain stuck in itself, but to really be a conduit for infinity, because that's who we really are. When you're in that mode of consciousness, there's no tumah. The Rebbe's point was that there's bechlal no tumah, even if you're not in that mode, because that's who you really are. But in terms of consciousness, there is tumah. Why? The less I feel myself as a klei kibul, the less I feel myself as a transmitter, the more there could be tumah. And that's true. The moment you become a conduit, there's no tumah. You know that, right? Huh? The moment you can have everything. Be big, be powerful, be successful, be rich, be resourceful. Yeah? Be gorgeous, be amazing. But be infinite. Ani nivreisi l'shamash eskoini. I was created to serve Hashem. That's who my ani is. That's what my ani really is. That's what it was made for. This klei cheres was made not l'kabbalah. It was made to transmit, to serve. It serves, the water should be able to go through it. That's what it was really made for. I struggle with this my whole life because I want to be me. I want to find myself. Yeah. Huh? That's what we spoke about the Eitz Hadas in Lyceum Meshakela, right? I want to be me. Huh? It's not even a niva avsiyoid. It's because I'm afraid I'm nothing. I'm afraid of I'm nothing, so I have to be something, right? When you're not afraid of being nothing, then you're good. The problem is when I'm afraid to be nothing. Ani oisyus ayin. Ani, the Tzemach Tzedek says, ani oisyus ayin. The real ani is ayin. Over there's no tumah. There's never tumah. There's no self-consciousness. You're a healthy person. It's like the body that doesn't feel itself. When are you most healthy? When the body doesn't feel it. Why doesn't the body feel it? Because it's a channel. And that's the healthy body. It's a channel. The moment the body starts feeling itself, it's not a channel anymore. You're stuck in the body. Oh, my pinky hurts, my head hurts, my feet hurts, my heart hurts, this hurts, that hurts. There's an infection. There's a virus. We're against the virus. We're against self-consciousness of any form, including through a virus. Somebody sent me a clip that somebody came in yesterday to a bank with a mask. You know, the mask. So everyone started to panic. Oh, yo, get out. He says, don't worry, I just came to rob the bank. They said, Pseida. V'shamai b'silul. B'koyach u'b'poyel, if you go... When you're alive? No, by a person there could be, but not by an animal. When a person is alive, he can get tummy, of course. Nida, zav. An animal can't get tummy when he's alive. By an animal, there's no tumor. When an animal is alive, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Where should it become tummy? When an animal dies, it's already a different inyan. It's nefesh leaves. But when a person is alive, there's tumah. Also interesting, min ha-Torah, when a person is alive, there's only tumah by a Jew, not by a non-Jew. The Chachamim were geyser tumah also, and Leah's Kezavim. Only by a Jew there's tumah when he's alive. No other creature. Not even a Gentile. When death there's tumah. You can't compare the tumah of an animal when it's dead to the tumah of a person when it's dead. Much higher tumah. Tumah's mace by a person is much more serious. An animal is dead, there's tumah. Tumah's nevela, there's tumah's sheretz, but you can't compare. But a living creature by animals, besides people, there's no tumah ever. It can't get tumah. There's nothing you can do. Only dead. By a person, there's no tumah. Only when the sheretz dies. All animals that way. A kosher animal, when it's shechted, there's b'chal no tumah, even when it's dead. But other animals, or if it's a nevela, it's tumah, but only when it's dead. But kalim could become tumah. Food gets tumah. Mashk, liquid gets tumah. A person can get tumah. A Jew can get tumah. Okay. Yeah. When an animal, a kosher animal is shechted, there's no tumah. Yeah. Because it's part of the chain of kedusha. Even though it's dead. In other words, it's not considered dead. It's really a hechsher for eating, so it's different. Which is the only reason we're allowed to shecht. The only reason we're allowed to take the life of an animal is because of that. Who gives you a right to kill an animal? If you're killing an animal, you're not allowed to. That's why when I eat meat or chicken, if I'm like an animal, then I should be a vegan. No, I'm serious. Yeah. Just like the animal was a vegan, a vegetarian, I should also be. If I'm like an animal when I'm eating, why are you better than the ox ate grass, the deer ate, the sheep ate grass? You also eat grass in your Monsey house. The deer eat grass, Emes. So you eat the same thing. Who give you a right to eat animals? Animals shouldn't eat animals unless you're a predator, but then you're not kosher. Ooh, if you're a person, if you're chelik elika, now it's different. Now you can eat it. Now the animal says, okay, I'm happy. If you're going to digest me and bring me back to the divine, now I'm happy to be part of that food chain. But if you're not in that position, if I sit and I'm fressing cholent or spare ribs like a behemoth, yeah, so then I should be a vegetarian.
I mean, the slaughterhouse, the way going big one, it doesn't look like they're too happy.
I hear you.
That's the nefesh of Bahamas. It depends. Wow, that's a very, very short.
Yes, Reb Meir Primishlan once said, and I'm not saying that this is a halacha, but he said this. It's just good to know how some Jews thought. He said that if you eat meat and while you're eating, you don't feel like the behemoth, when they slaughtered it, you're not allowed to eat meat. If while you're eating meat, you don't feel like the behemoth during the shchita, you're not allowed to eat meat. If you're not in the mental space that you're allowed to eat meat. For you, it's cruelty. You are a sadistic, barbarian, narcissistic fresser.
So it means if you don't feel like you...
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying this halacha, and but I want you to understand how some Jews thought about it. That's it.
But then you wouldn't eat. So that's terrible. How was the simchas b'yad? You think about slaughtering.
No. He meant the sensitivity. He didn't mean that there's a knife in you. No. Creation, yeah. The behemoth gave up his life. He's not talking about the pain. He said the behemoth gave up his life. This is his place. See your place. You don't own the meat and you're sitting here on your chair and the meat fills your stomach. There's a sensitivity. It's not the last stop. Yeah, it's not the last stop. Very well. The meat shouldn't end up here. You have to bring it back to the source. If the last stop is my stomach...
If he was eaten for the purpose, if there is me, also there is...
Exactly. He gave his life for this purpose. What are you giving? The behemoth gave his life so that you can eat it. What are you giving? Afres. What are you giving? Afres, that's what you're giving. Where's your bittel? That's what he's saying. Where's your bittel? Why suddenly do you become the narcissist? The whole world serves you. And I'm the narcissist. Everyone is feeding me. Why does it stop here? He says it doesn't. You're right. You're a robber. You're a thief. Unless it doesn't stop by you. It goes back to the source.
Why is it different from plants?
It's not. Plants the same thing. But we see clearly that with plants it's a little easier. When you're eating lettuce, you don't feel so narcissistic, right? But you're right. Same thing.
There are thoughts from Torah that we also become part of the food chain. In the Shem of the Tzaddikim.
Yeah. Parshas Shmini. Yeah. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe said he was once a child. He was walking with his father. They were taking a stroll, and he tore off a leaf from a tree to play with it. So his father looked at him and said in Yiddish, "For was is dein ich mehr choshev wie sein ich?" Why do you think your eye is more significant than his eye? That you're walking and you're bored, so you could just tear it off. Like, where's your sensitivity to another living organism? Now, that's fascinating. Well, I'm walking in the street. In other words, if it doesn't stop there, we do harvest fruits. We do harvest trees. But why? They're alive. They're alive. The answer is the tree releases its grip on the fruit. You know, when a fruit becomes ripe, the tree releases its grip. It's much easier because the tree is saying, come, take me. But take me so that you could complete the cycle, not that you should become self-absorbed. That's the difference of klei cheres ha'aseh l'kabbalah, not aseh l'kabbalah. It doesn't stop here. This is not your final destination. My brother told me he stopped using GPS years ago. Why? He was going to a cemetery, and he arrived and says, "You arrived at your final destination." Yeah. When you arrive at your final destination, it means you're dead. If the meat arrived at its final destination, it means you're spiritually dead. The meat didn't arrive at your final destination. You eat, and then you say, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And now the meat goes back to Echad. Now you arrived at your final destination.
I feel like I lost weight during this last year. So.
Really? Okay. So you can eat today as much as you want, Obama.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.